3, 4. I am a lineman for the county, and I drive the main road, searching in the sun for another overload. I hear you singing in the wire, I can hear you through the whine, and the Wichita lineman is still on the line. I know I need a small vacation, but it don't look like rain. And if it snows, that stretch down south won't ever stand the strain. And I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time. And the Wichita lineman is still on the line. I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time. And the Wichita lineman is still on the line. Still on the
I like that. All right, Galveston.
All right, everybody. It's kind of a rough go right now, but this is the first scheduled stream that I'm using OBS Streamlabs OBS, and you can find, in fact, a link in the description if you want to basically donate to the channel. There's also a new Subscribe Star account. I don't know whether it's completely active or not yet, but I'm going to start actually trying to develop this channel. I've also been in talks with a couple of friends who you probably know them, but we have nothing official yet about really developing the channels, our respective channels into more than they are already. But I figured this is my first stream since finding this Streamlabs OBS, where I really have something set up and I want to talk about. And I hope that you guys show your appreciation, donate to the channel. By donating to the channel, you could potentially help us promote this type of content and sort of the work that I do in order to dispel some of the nonsense that we see in the media. And I hope that if you're not donating to me, you're at least donating to somebody else that you trust in order to deliver you a fresh and a fresh perspective that's as unbiased as possible. I don't think you can completely free people from bias, but you can at least try. So please hit the like button. Also, subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. I will be looking at the chat. I'll also be looking at the Streamlabs from time to time to see how is it going. You can also put a comment in the Streamlabs, and from what I understand, the comments will appear on the screen. So please donate. It doesn't have to be that much. On the Subscribe Star, by the way, it's a $4.99 per month thing, if that's better for you. I know everybody needs to budget. I have to budget myself. Basically, what's been going on since 2016, and now that we've gotten through that, is that every single malady that's going on in the world is attributed to Vladimir Putin and the Russian government. And unfortunately, we've basically allowed this narrative to just permeate every single nook and cranny of, whether it's media, whether it's entertainment. People are just complaining nonstop about Vladimir Putin. I remember when Putin came to power in, I think it was the beginning of 2000, if not the end of 1999. And people didn't know much about him. In fact, you could say that the Western leadership wasn't very much concerned with him, even though he had a KGB background, even though he was basically a totally new animal as far as, comparing him to Boris Yeltsin, who was the previous Russian president. He was the first president of Russia after the fall of the Soviet Union. So I think that Vladimir Putin has done a number of things that have been destructive to the future of Russia and also to world stability. But this idea that we're going to pretty much blame every single problem in the world on one country is the same thing that they do to us in the U.S. It's the same thing. By the way, the media does it to China. I criticize China. I don't claim that China is the worst country in the world. I don't claim that the Chinese are responsible for all of society's ills. Thank you very much. This is from my friend Pinochet, or as the great Chilean dictator Tikhonov. Thank you very much, my friend. I did see your comment earlier about Dan Bongino concerning the Ralph Northam issue. So please, everybody follow Pinochet's example. I think this is a great person to look up to, Mr. Pinochet. I'm being facetious, of course, but yeah, he's a great viewer, and I appreciate his. I do read your comments, by the way, all of you guys, not just Pinochet or Tikhonov, as they call him. So let me see if he actually commented, though. I think I have to see that on the comments page. So I have to go here. It's not easy using this Streamlabs. So I'm sorry if you guys are going to have to bear with me, but I have to bear with myself as well. And by the way, I was cussing out the Streamlabs before. Yes, Pinochet says, howdy bold, you should enable text-to-speech on Streamlabs. It's an absolute crowd pleaser. How about next time? I'll have to look into how to do that. It's just it's pretty funny. I think I saw it not on the Hard Bastard channel, but on other channels. Streamlabs, by the way, I saw Hooflung Puitz set it up on his channel. Those of you that watch Hard Bastard, you know who that guy is. So yes, we're really dealing right now with a new world of McCarthyism, and I think it's worse than McCarthyism because you could make the case that Joseph McCarthy had a point. There were a lot of communists embedded in American society from the teens through the 50s when he was, of course, active in the U.S. Senate. And people have to deal with the fact that whereas with McCarthy, you had at least traces, if not real tree trunks worth of problems with communism embedding our democratic system. When it comes to Russiagate, there's literally not a single strand of evidence linking the Trump candidacy with the Soviet leadership, with the Russian leadership, whatever you want to call it. There is nothing to show that there was a consistent campaign to influence the election that involved Donald Trump himself. So I'm going to go through a number of stories because we're going to summarize a lot of the stuff that I've kind of let go because I don't want this channel to be exclusively about that theme. I do listen to the Bongino podcast. I know that Pinochet has a sort of a different take on Bongino himself, but I think it's a good way to stay abreast, at least, of the latest information on it. And if he has a different one, I know Lee Stranahan also has a lot of important stuff about it, but Lee Stranahan and what's his name, and Dan Bongino don't get along at all. So maybe you should listen to both and make a decision. It's a good way to find the happy medium, or in this case, the arguing medium. In any case, so there's a woman who claimed, I think in 2017, that she had proof that Donald Trump had basically patronized Russian prostitutes during his Moscow visit. And unfortunately, it seems that we might never know exactly what the hell she was talking about. So this is what she looks like. That's she's not I'd say she's passable. She definitely fits the part. So a Belarusian model who claims she has proof of Russian involvement in Donald Trump's 2016 election campaign claims that she has turned the information over to a Russian billionaire. Despite earlier reports she had destroyed the recordings, model and sex worker Anastasia Vashukovich told the Associated Press in an interview on Friday she had given records to businessman Oleg Deripaska. The 28-year-old said she did so because it relates to him and she did not want any more trouble. So essentially, Deripaska is one of the suspects. The government, especially the Mueller probe, has suspected that he's involved in this plot to influence the election. But now that she's turned over the documents and she claims she does not want any more trouble, then what else can people expect from her? That doesn't sound like a person who's going to be a cooperative witness. It doesn't sound like a person who's going to be a credible witness, for that matter. Let's see here. Try to ask Dan Bongino about Bill Browder and watch how fast he calls you a Russian agent and blocks you. It's really suspicious. The Bill Browder thing, from what I understand, he was actually one of these people that was campaigning to implement the Magnitsky Act. And, I think some of the people who have been, like Bill Browder, have to be brought to account by our justice system and basically fined for what they've done, because they're basically using the U.S. national security apparatus in order to further their personal goals, their personal financial goals, which I think is an abuse. I think you guys would agree that it's an abuse. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, except you're a Democrat. When pressed Friday by the AP about her previous claims, Vashukovich said she had emailed everything I had to Deripaska and dodged the question of whether she kept a copy for herself. Oleg Deripaska has it all. If he wants to make any of it public, if he thinks that it's a good idea, he can do it himself, she said. Vashukovich first fueled speculation of links between Trump and the Kremlin last year when she posted a video from a police van. In the footage, she explicitly stated she had 16 hours of audio and video tying Russian officials to the Trump campaign that won him the 2016 elections. I am the only witness and the missing link in the connection between Russia and the U.S. elections, the long chain of Oleg Deripaska, Prikhadko, Manafort, and Trump, she said in a video shot whilst driving through the streets. If you're Russian out there, you can grade my pronunciation. I'd only be happy to hear your feedback. Another of Vashukovich's videos was used in February last year when Russian politician Alexei Navalny published an investigation of dealings between Mr. Deripaska and then Russian Deputy Prime Minister Sergei Prikhadko. Mr. Deripaska's representative at the time dismissed the reports as scandalous and mendacious assumptions. He filed and won a lawsuit against the model for breach of privacy and secured a court ruling to delete the videos of him and Mr. Prikhadko from social media. Vashukovich, who's also known as Nastya Rybka, also, I think Rybka in Russian means little fish. So that's not a good, in America, I don't think that would be a good nickname for a prostitute. Only returned to Russia last month after spending time in a Thai prison. After the Navalny investigation, she went to Thailand with her teacher, self-styled sex guru Alexander Kirillov. The two were conducting a sex training seminar when they were detained. So there's your big witness. You're going to have somebody who's been in Thai prison for running sex clinics, testifying against a Russian oligarch and Donald Trump. somehow I wonder if the jury will find the testimony credible. I don't know. Maybe I'm a judgmental person. So, yeah, Pinochet, I think we agree on a lot. So please, I'm not dismissing what you're saying about Bongino, but even sources that I don't necessarily, I do like Bongino, but I still read and consume media from sources I don't even like. I watch RT, for example. I don't hate RT, but I'm skeptical about a lot of their stuff. I also watch stuff from Al Jazeera once in a while. I think it's important to really widen the lens in order to get the best complete picture, or at least figure out what everybody's saying. So once again, if you've just joined, please donate at the link, the first link over here, streamlabs.com, bold like a leopard. I will put that again in the chat. Give me your money. I love money, and you probably do too, so don't be shy. Putting the link here again. I'm just kidding. You don't have to donate to me, but there's also a subscribe star there if you don't want to donate monthly. So, I love it that I'm now openly shilling for my channel, but you might as well. I do want you to, like, if you like this channel, and you want to donate, that's fine. If you think that I'm only promoting myself, look, I donate to the Tim Pool channel. I know some of you guys might like him, some of you maybe not. I donate also to Anthony Logan's channel, although I think I'm going to cancel my Patreon because I actually have deleted the Patreon link to my channel. And I donate to Derek Blackman, if you know who that is. As well as periodically I also do super chats to the Hard Bastard. So I invite you guys to donate to those guys too. They're pretty good. If you want somebody with a little more of a consistent coverage in terms of, they put out streams all the time. In exchange for help from U.S. intelligence and a guarantee of my safety, I am prepared to provide the necessary information to America or Europe or to the country which can buy me out of Thai prison, she stated. She later withdrew the offer, suggesting that she and Mr. Deripaska had reached an agreement. So now there's no hope that unless Deripaska is going to use this evidence in order to screw Donald Trump, which, why would he need to do that if she was going to turn over the evidence anyway? I don't know if we're ever going to find out exactly what the hell she was talking about. It could be that none of it even existed to begin with. And, of course, she also lost the lawsuit. Vashukovich and Kirillov initially blamed Russia for their incarceration. They said it was an attempt to silence them and they were fearful for their lives. In April, however, Vashukovich changed her tune and said it was the U.S. government that was persecuting her, not Russia. Again, this is not really building up her credibility. So a Russian prostitute, runs a sex clinic in Thailand, gets arrested for it, claims that she has evidence that can tie Deripaska to Trump, and then Trump to the Kremlin by that intermediary. Then she gets out of prison, gives all the evidence to Deripaska, and now claims that it's the U.S. that's persecuting her. So yeah, this is a dead end. This is more than a dead end. It's a zombie dead end that has been shot by one of the characters from The Walking Dead and is now dead again. That's the best way to describe it. The Belarusian native who penned 2 books about seducing rich, powerful men explained to the AP how she changed her mind about who was to blame for her plight in Thailand. She said that she received multiple visits from Americans with FBI IDs who sought information about her claims of Russian interference in the 2016 election. She claims they offered her safety in the U.S. or threatened her with a lengthy prison term if she refused to cooperate. So yeah, this story is dead. It is over, and Deripaska is probably getting drunk and partying right now thanks to this. Now, another big thing that happened this weekend, and I don't know if somebody's mentioned it in the chat yet, but I will check. Sounds like she was trying to get out of a Thai prison. Yeah, exactly. So you guys probably have heard, I'm sure, that Pinochet did, that all these accusations that this Trump Tower meeting was coordinated and that they knew that Donald Trump himself knew that this was going to happen. There's now no evidence of it whatsoever. there's complete. It's basically as if there's nothing that can be used to tie this meeting to Trump himself. They could possibly try to continue to pursue Trump Jr. about it, although I don't know what benefit that would present to them. You see, Trump Jr. can also sue Adam Schiff, in my opinion. What happened was that they believed that these two phone calls, one before, it might have even been 3 phone calls. I think it was 1 before, 2 after the meeting. They alleged, because they came from a blocked number, and Donald Trump is known to use blocked numbers, they alleged that Donald Trump had lied about knowing about the meeting. But that never actually happened. So what are people supposed to do now? Are they supposed to take this meeting, which nothing came of it, and try to use it against Donald Trump? I don't think you can. In fact, I think that you need people to start talking about what's going to happen to all of these congressmen and these politicians and media figures that are spreading all of these ridiculous rumors, boogeyman rumors about Russia and about Trump. It's time for people to finally be held accountable. We can't continue this nonsense. Let me see here. Adam Schiff stepped in, and again, what a rube. By the way, I don't know why nobody else is opining besides Pinochet. I think I'm going to refresh this. But he's certainly... I think Pinochet, by the way, also has a channel, for those of you that want to check it out. Although I don't think he's put out anything for a while. But yeah, you guys can comment in the regular chat as well if you want. And also donate to Streamlabs with me. Donate to me. For more than a year, congressional Democrats have pushed to unlock a mystery they said could reveal whether Donald Trump had advanced knowledge of a meeting his eldest son had in the summer of 2016 with a Russian lawyer, promising damaging material about Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. The key, they said, was to determine who was using blocked telephone numbers to speak to Donald Trump Jr. before and after the meeting in Trump Tower, suggesting he may have communicated with his father on a private line. But Senate investigators have concluded that the blocked calls were conversations between Trump Jr. and 2 longtime business associates, Howard Lorber, a real estate investor who had done business in Russia, and Brian France, the chief executive of NASCAR, according to 2 people familiar with the determination. I think Brian France would be the son of the founder, Bob France, or Bill France. I think Bill France was the guy who founded NASCAR. The findings were first reported by CNN and ABC News. France did not immediately respond to a request for comment. So now are they going to call NASCAR Russian? What are they supposed to do now? What are they supposed to do now? I mean, who are they supposed to? You're gonna call these businessmen. You're gonna call them Russian agents now? It's not gonna work. President Trump has long denied that he knew about the Trump Tower gathering in 2016, which was attended by Donald Trump Jr., his brother-in-law Jared Kushner, and Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort. At the meeting, Trump Jr. was expecting a Russian lawyer linked to the Kremlin to share dirt on Clinton. He later told Congress, but instead she pressed him about U.S. sanctions levied on Russia for human rights abuses. So yeah, this is complete nonsense. Russia is not involved in any way in the campaign. In fact, from what I heard, he basically shut down the meeting when he found out she didn't have anything to present. So there was no collusion because there was nothing to give. It was basically a fake meeting with a fake goal. So yeah, it's over. And I think that if I was Donald Trump, I would start looking for measures to actually sue Adam Schiff personally and embarrass him in court. That would be great. It would be amazing. Pretty soon there will be a subpoena to get McMahon. Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. Bill France or whoever this is, Brian France, and Vince McMahon in court. That would be hilarious. Now they're also going after people that have virtually nothing to do with Russia. You have Russia. This is from NBC. I can't believe it. They're already calling Tulsi Gabbard a Russian agent. They're saying Russia, and they're also using this photograph. Notice they're using a photograph that's kind of unflattering of her. You can see kind of the bumps and contours of her face from below. they use these types of images. They do this all the time to, Tulsi Gabbard looks like a pretty good looking person. Okay, I'm not going to lie. I think she looks pretty good for a person in Congress, especially for a person who's been in Congress for a few years, because I think they probably tend to put on a few pounds. She looks great. And they're making her look basically like she's some sort of sweating weirdo with this photo. Metadata Man is here. Hey, everyone. Glad to finally be able to catch a live stream. God, I wish they dropped the Russia crap. It's so tiresome. Yeah, thanks, Metadata Man. Thanks for tuning in. The Russian propaganda machine that tried to influence the 2016 election is now promoting the presidential aspirations of a controversial Hawaii Democrat who earlier this month declared there's no reason she should be controversial, by the way. The only thing she did controversial was she met personally with Bashar al-Assad, which, by the way, Nancy Pelosi did as well. An NBC News analysis of the main English language news site employed by Russia in its 2016 election meddling shows Representative Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, who is set to make her formal announcement Saturday, has become a favorite of the sites Moscow used when it interfered in 2016. Several experts who track websites and social media linked to the Kremlin have also seen what they believe may be the first stirrings of an upcoming Russian campaign of support for Gabbard. Since Gabbard announced her intention to run on January 11th, there have been at least 20 Gabbard stories on 3 major Moscow-based English language websites affiliated with or supportive of the Russian government. RT, the Russian-owned TV outlet, Sputnik News, a radio outlet, and Russia Insider, a blog that experts say closely follows the Kremlin line. This is not evidence that she's Russia's pawn. This is evidence that certain news organizations affiliated with Russia, like Tulsi Gabbard, which is not evidence of a crime. Okay, they're not a propaganda machine. Okay, they are pro-Russian, but being pro-Russian does not a propaganda machine make. So yeah, I think it's shameful that this is happening. They're also going after, this is Stranahan. Okay, and I don't know who Garland Nixon is, but if you guys listen to Sputnik, maybe you do. All 3 sites celebrated Gabbard's announcement, defended her positions on Russia and her 2017 meeting with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, and attacked those who have suggested she is a pawn for Moscow. The coverage devoted to Gabbard, both in news and commentary, exceeds that afforded to any of the declared or rumored Democratic candidates, despite Gabbard's lack of voter recognition. So let's turn that around, okay? Think about it this way. They are complaining that Russian news organizations are giving more attention to Gabbard as opposed to all of the crappy candidates that they're promoting. You have people, for example, Elizabeth Warren last year. She got coverage because she adopted a puppy. Do you realize how ridiculous that is? I could probably even find it for you. So, Elizabeth Warren. So, yeah, this is from The Hill. They made a story about Elizabeth Warren announcing the name of her retriever puppy. It looks pretty awesome. I like dogs myself. But the fact is that, Vladimir Putin also has a puppy. Okay, so are we supposed to, judge him by that? I think that this was a much more natural moment, to be honest with you. So they pick him up by the scruff of his neck. I think that is a boy. And that's the president of Turkmenistan there. And, what's the problem? I mean, look. Vladimir Putin with a puppy. I don't think anybody would object to this, not least of which the puppy. Who cares? Who friggin' cares? But when Elizabeth Warren adopts a puppy, it's the greatest thing in the world. And she names it, of course, this benign nickname. I see here Sherrod Brown is calling Donald Trump racist. Well, okay, let's call you, wife beater, because you did. you did beat your wife, Sherrod Brown. Yeah, this is retarded. This is the way that our politics works. If they like you, they'll put stories about you petting puppies on TV, and if they don't, then they'll basically spread rumors about you being Russia's pawn. Let's play some of this, by the way. So even while they're
first question is,
even during this stupid promotion from NBC News, they still have to put some crap about Kamala Harris.
There's been an awful lot of talk about you running for president. How close are you to making that decision?
I'll make it soon.
Okay.
I'm not going to announce it today, obviously.
Welcome back to Harvard. That was Democratic Senator Kamala Harris of California this morning. Continued to keep us all somewhat in the dark about her plans to run in 2020. But the California senator, who has been on a media tour lately to promote her new books, did answer why she would want to be president.
I believe our country wants and needs leadership that provides a vision of the future of our country in which everyone can see themselves,
Well, Harris is one of a crowded field of Democrats mulling over the decision to run for the party's nomination. And today, another potential candidate, U.S. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, announced she is getting into the race. Here she is.
I have decided to run and will be making a formal announcement within the next week.
Well, two other senators, Kirsten Gillibrand of New York and Sherrod Brown of Ohio, are planning trips to Iowa in the coming weeks. And former U.S. Congressman Beto O'Rourke of Texas is receiving some late-night laughs for his recent social media post while getting his teeth cleaned.
It looks like he didn't understand what his advisor...
So understand, they haven't even mentioned the Tulsi Gabbard part yet. So we're going to skip ahead.
Bureau Chief for USA Today, Adrian Elrod, former Director of Strategic Communications, Hillary for America, and as of today, this very day, an MSNBC contributor. Congratulations. And Shermichael Singleton, a Republican political consultant. So give us a sense, Susan, you have to do the front page for USA Today. So how's the race look in terms of participation right now? How many people are running?
So I think for the first time in history, we're going to have more candidates than we...
She looks like so overjoyed, like she just got finished chewing on a fetus.
have fingers and toes.
Yeah. That would be more than 20.
More than 20.
She even said fingers and toes, so you can tell she just finished eating one of those.
And I think the previous record is 17 of kind of credible candidates, but you can count 24 credible Democratic candidates, and it's hard to see any of them not running. There's no sense of question about where Kamala Harris is running. She's running.
Let me ask you, Adrian, it seems to me no matter what we say now about equality of opportunity, there's going to be polls. Yep. There'll be a poll sometime in April or May that's going to tell us what this race, this field looks like, right?
Yeah, of course. And
there's only going to be 4 or 5 people that really have getting anywhere near double digits.
That's right, but I think you're going to see Democratic voters flirt with a bunch of different candidates, and I think you're going to see the Tier 1 candidates stay, for the most part, Tier 1. But I think you're going to see a couple Tier 2 candidates move into the Tier 1 space. So,
like who?
Well, I think Terry McCarthy.
Yeah, this is complete bullshit because they don't even mention Tulsi Gabbard. So in one where they talk about Tulsi Gabbard, or the title mentions Tulsi Gabbard, they barely even talk about Tulsi Gabbard. And, let's hear what this dude said.
Donors is extremely expensive. It's a very complicated process. And I think Democrats have to be very, very careful, though, because each of those candidates are going to have to figure out some kind of way to distinguish themselves from the next person. Remember when Republicans had 17 candidates? We had 2 different debates. I mean, how do you have a debate stage with 22 different candidates? So while I think this is good to give people an opportunity to see who they want to ultimately choose, I think it can be a complicated process that may ultimately hurt some viable or some good candidates in the long run.
All right, yeah, they don't even discuss anything relating to her. So yeah, that was ridiculous. Gabbard was mentioned on 3 sites about twice as often as 2 of the best-known Democratic possibilities for 2020, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, each with 10 stories. So I'll tell you one of the reasons maybe that's the case. Because Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders haven't declared their candidacies. And it says Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren had fewer. Again, Elizabeth Warren hasn't declared her candidacy, and Kamala Harris has wall-to-wall coverage in the media. It's like, why would you bring sand to the beach? You see, when you are trying to develop a brand, you try to do things that other news organizations don't do. And that's something, I don't necessarily trust everything that RT does. I'd probably say 50% of the stuff they say I don't really trust at all, because they have a lot of garbage people on there, like Richard Wolff and Chris Hedges. I respect Chris Hedges, but I think he's completely wrong on economics and virtually every single policy that he promotes. But I think he's a deep thinker, I guess you would call it that. But RT at least sets their brand apart. They have Lee Camp. They have a lot of like pretty respectable people. Last week I did find somebody on their channel who's kind of a clown ass clown. But they're complaining that the Russian media, what they call Russian media, isn't focusing on what they want them to focus on, which is Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren's puppy. Elizabeth Warren is a shitty candidate. The less attention she gets from the media, the better it would go for her campaign. And that's saying something about her viability as a candidate. She could never get elected as a normal candidate. They can't allow an anti-intervention, anti-war centrist like Tulsi to get very far out of the gate. That's part of the reason. I'm sure that there's other reasons they wouldn't let her get very far. Including some of her domestic policies. And the Hill Reporter, which is Ed Krasenstein's shitty online publication, is also shilling. They're basically trying to paint her as a Russian candidate, and he basically just repeats a lot of the same garbage in very simplistic terms that NBC already published. So he's basically just an amplifying megaphone for NBC. This is, I look at this work here, and they basically just made everything that NBC said, but they just summarized it in less paragraphs and shorter paragraphs at that. So finally, there's this Rachel Maddow garbage. What else do I have here? We have this guy. This is from The Atlantic, and there's another one from Russia's own Masha Gessen, who's a big Russiagate propagandist. So we'll go through both of these before we close. Now, this is Paste Magazine, which is a leftist paper, and they are calling her basically an InfoWars shill. I don't know if I even put this in the description, so sorry about that, but I will put it in the chat. And they go through this ridiculous article. She's so stupid. It's easy for Glenn Greenwald then to swoop in and destroy her. Glenn Greenwald also being an apologist for communism and the failure of socialism in Brazil, but he's right here. He says, "I'm not even joking. I have so much work to do, and I can't stop watching this. MSNBC often removes its most embarrassing debacles from the internet. Someone please do that here so I can get to work."
And it is like negative 50 degrees in the Dakotas right now. What would happen if Russia killed the power in Fargo today? Right? What would happen if all the natural gas lines that service Sioux Falls just poofed on the coldest day in recent memory, and it wasn't in our power whether or not to turn them back on? I mean, what would you do if you lost heat indefinitely as the act of a foreign power on the same day the temperature in your front yard matched the temperature in Antarctica? I mean, what would you and your family do?
Yeah, they're basically speculating about what if Russia released, I think it's either an EMP or some sort of mass terror attack on gas lines or something. Well, this is the same crap that they did 2 years ago in December 2016. They said Russian hackers penetrated the U.S. electricity grid through a utility in Vermont. That actually didn't happen. Okay, Washington Post retracts story about Russian hack at Vermont utility. So, all of these like so-called wise people of the media continue to attack Russia, try to say that Russia is behind every single malady in the world, as I said before, and they just can't prove it, and they have egg on their face over and over again, whether it's Rachel Maddow, whether it's Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell, the two dumbass twins of the Senate Intelligence Committee. It seems to be that these people just come in pairs. You have Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes on MSNBC, and then Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell on in Congress. So that's basically the way that our media is behaving today. They're basically just promoting anti-Russian propaganda. And then they're now saying that Russia is attacking the U.S. system from within. A new court filing submitted on Wednesday by special counsel Robert Mueller revealed that a Russian troll farm currently locked in a legal battle over its alleged interference in the 2016 election appeared to wage yet another disinformation campaign late last year, this time targeting Mueller himself. According to the filing, the special counsel's office turned over 1 million pages of evidence to lawyers for Concord Management and consulting as part of the discovery process. The firm is accused of funding the troll farm known as the Internet Research Agency, but someone connected to Concord allegedly manipulated the documents and leaked them to reporters, hoping the documents would make people think that Mueller's evidence against the troll farm and its owners was flimsy. The tactic didn't seem to convince anyone, but it appeared to mark yet another example of Russia exploiting the U.S. justice system to undercut its rivals abroad. So understand what they're saying here. They're saying that a company which Mueller is targeting and trying to put out of business, basically, in order to validate his ridiculous investigation, they're saying that they're playing dirty by leaking documents that were shared in the discovery process to the media. So who wrote this article, by the way? I don't even see the source here. A second. So I go to the original one. Natasha Bertrand. So you have all these people that are behaving as if they're, discovering this great conspiracy, this grand plot to destabilize democracy. But in reality, people are just using their legal rights. And I guess that in modern 2019 America is Russian collusion. Last year, I detailed how Russia has figured out how to use the U.S. immigration courts and so-called red notices used by Interpol to harass and even detain its enemies, but it doesn't end there. Experts say Kremlin proxies have targeted their rivals and other disfavored individuals by exploiting U.S. courts to pursue bogus claims via superficially legitimate lawsuits. So you can't call it superficially legitimate. It's either a legitimate lawsuit or it isn't. The law doesn't have things that are half true and not. I guess sometimes there's compromises in law, but something is not either. Something can't be half legal. Okay, either you've broken a law or you haven't. Okay, now there are ways to get away with breaking the law, and I think that the 2016 election exhibits a lot of that too, but not in the way they're talking about. But that's a different matter. You can't call it a superficially legitimate lawsuit. So this comes from Anders Asland, a resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council. Yes, the Atlantic Council. We're going to trust them. This think tank that is basically for promoting NATO and the military-industrial complex. The Kremlin proxies have done so not only to perpetuate global harassment campaigns against their perceived enemies, Asland argued, but also to enrich themselves through bad faith claims made possible by the Russian state's abuse of disfavored individuals and their business. When Mueller indicted Concord in February 2018, along with 2 other corporate entities and 13 Russian nationals allegedly connected to the Internet Research Agency, it seemed highly unlikely that the indictment would result in a trial because Russians cannot be extradited to the United States. But Concord unexpectedly hired the well-connected American law firm Reed Smith to fight Mueller, arguing that the charges should be dropped because the special counsel was illegally appointed. The judge in the case, Dabney Friedrich, has twice refused to dismiss the case and recently lambasted Concord's American lawyers for submitting unprofessional, inappropriate, and ineffective court filings, and the legal battle has raged on. But realize what this actually means. Okay, I want you to pay attention to that. They're saying that this indictment was never supposed to come to fruition. They were saying basically that, well, yes, there is there's this indictment, but it was never actually supposed to be brought to trial because these are Russian nationals. Well, then, therefore, what's the point of having an indictment at all? Thank you, Pinochet, for tuning in, and thank you for the donation as well. I hope everybody makes a donation and keep this stream running. You know, if you're out there, please also like the stream and share it, by the way. Now, according to the Mueller filing this week, unidentified actors working out of Russia appear to have weaponized the U.S. discovery process to Congress' benefit. More than 1,000 files on the website that hosted the leaked documents match those produced in discovery, the special counsel said. The documents were published from a computer with a Russian IP address, according to Mueller, and whoever released them clearly had access to at least some of the non-sensitive discovery produced by the government. Non-sensitive discovery. Non-sensitive. But forged documents were mixed into the trove, too, apparently in an attempt to accuse Mueller of characterizing American websites and Facebook pages, such as Occupy Democrats, as Russian disinformation operations. This website also inserted irrelevant documents into folders with unique names known only to those with access to the discovery materials, and to characterize them as the sum total of Mueller's evidence in an apparent effort to discredit the investigation, the special counsel said. So realize what they're saying. They're not proving at all that Concord was involved in trying to hack the election or trying to influence the election. What they're essentially doing is complaining that the Russian organization or Concord, whoever it is fighting back in court. And that's really what's ridiculous here, that they think that just because somebody is supposedly affiliated with Russia, that they don't have a right to a fair trial and a day in court, which is ridiculous. If these people want to one day travel to the United States, they would always have this indictment hanging over them. So let me see, what else do we have for today? We did the Pace story. We did this. So the Trump-Russia investigation in the mafia state. So you have this Masha Gessen. I can't even read this the way it is. So we're going to have to read from the original article. So she says it's been a strange 2.5 years from the first allegations in July 2016 of Russian meddling in the U.S. election campaign to the arrest of President Donald Trump's former advisor Roger Stone last week. Many of us who write about Russia professionally or who are Russian have struggled to square what we know with the emerging narrative. In this story, Russia waged a sophisticated and audacious operation to subvert American elections and install a president of his choice. It pulled off a coup. Tell that to your average American liberal, and you'll get a nod of recognition. Tell it to your average Russian liberal, admittedly a much smaller category, and you'll get uproarious laughter. Russians know that their state lacks the competence to mount a sophisticated sabotage effort, that the Kremlin was even more surprised by Trump's election than was the candidate himself, and that Russian-American relations are at their most dysfunctional since the height of the Cold War, and yet the indictments keep coming. Reader, I think I finally figured it out. I don't mean that I figured out whether Russians influenced the outcome of the Russian-American election. I doubt even the Robert Mueller investigation will be able to answer that question. So what she's doing here is she's pouring cold water over the entire effort here, because it doesn't mean anything. There's nothing that they can do. She's saying basically, well, we might never actually know. Well, if you can't actually know, then why even keep the investigation going? Why waste the money? Why waste all the energy of the media on this thing if people can never know? Okay, and we're not even talking about investigating UFOs or the Loch Ness Monster or anything. We're trying to figure out if something happened between a few human beings in 2016, sorry. I mean that I figured out how to think about what we know and not go crazy. The answer lies in the concept of the mafia state. So here she starts to go really retarded here. And she says, and no, I'm not invoking the mob because Stone encouraged an associate to behave like a character from The Godfather Part 2, as detailed in his indictment. As journalists who usually cover American politics have connected the dots of the story of Russian interference, those of us who normally write about Russia have cringed. Early on, it was common to point out that Paul Manafort, Trump's former campaign manager who is now under arrest, worked for Viktor Yanukovych, who is often characterized as the pro-Russian president of Ukraine. In fact, there was no love lost between Putin and Yanukovych. After he was run out of town during the 2014 Ukrainian Revolution, Yanukovych did seek refuge in Russia, but during his tenure as president, he was an unreliable partner for Putin at best. Perhaps more to the point, he's a crook and a brute. He served time for robbery and assault before he became a politician, and he is wanted in Ukraine for treason, mass murder, and embezzlement. So all of this is basically garnish for her saying that she doesn't know what the fuck happened. A visitor to Ukraine can take a tour of Yanukovych's palace, famous for its marble, crystal, immense scale, and a life-size solid gold sculpture of a loaf of bread. Manafort made a career of working for the corrupt and the crooked. That in itself tells us a little about Russia or its role in the 2016 campaign. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. We cringed at headlines that claimed to have established a connection between the Kremlin and Natalia Veselnitskaya, the lawyer who was at the Trump Tower meeting with Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and Manafort. Veselnitskaya represents a Russian company, Prevezon Holdings Limited, which was investigated in New York for money laundering, and Veselnitskaya, excuse me. I don't know why this cough crops up at the wrong times. And Veselnitskaya has been charged with lying to prosecutors about her working relationship with the Russian Prosecutor General's office. Federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York claim that Veselnitskaya collaborated with a lawyer in the Russian prosecutor's office to draft exculpatory documents for Prevezon. In media coverage, her emailing with a lawyer in the Russian prosecutor's office was portrayed as evidence of a direct line to Putin, suggesting that she met with Trump's campaign officials as his emissary. To me, it read as a lot of bluster on the part of a minor operator. So this is a woman who's been shouting about Russia for the past 2 years, and now she's claiming that it sounded like a bunch of bluster. That's called covering your ass. You know, this is a woman who claimed that basically Russia is more powerful than ever, and now she seems to be saying, well, it's preposterous that people could think Russia coordinated this election hacking. From all the available evidence, and contrary to her sales pitch, Veselnitskaya did not have any dirt to offer on Hillary Clinton. To the extent that Veselnitskaya had established connections to high-level Russian officials, they were the kind that are necessary for a lawyer to be at all effective in a corrupt system. We cringed at the characterization of the Russian online influence campaign as sophisticated and vast. So, let me see here. Russian reporting on the matter, the best available, convincingly portrayed the true operation as small-time and ridiculous. It was, it seems, fraudulent in every way imaginable. It perpetrated fraud on American social networks, creating fake accounts and events and even spreading falsehoods, but it was also fraudulent in its relationship to whoever was funding it, because surely cruelly designed pictures depicting Hillary Clinton as Satan could not deliver anyone's money's worth. What we are observing is not accurately described as a subversion of American democracy by a hostile power. Instead, it is an attempt at state capture by an international crime syndicate. What unites Yanukovych, Veselnitskaya, Manafort, Stone, WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, the Russian troll factory, the Trump campaign staffer George Papadopoulos and his partners in crime, the professor whose academic credentials that's, by the way, that's what's his name? The guy from Malta. I don't even remember his name. He has some sort of let me see here. I don't even remember his name. Like a month ago, his name was all over the news. And the female Russian national who appears to have fraudulently represented herself as Putin's niece is that they're all crooks and frauds. This is not a moral assessment or an attempt to downplay their importance. It is an attempt to stop talking in the terms of states and geopolitics and begin looking at mafias and profits. The Hungarian sociologist Balint Magyar, who created the concept of the post-communist mafia state, has just finished editing a new collection of articles called Stubborn Structures, Reconceptualizing Post. So now she's going into all this philosophizing about it. Bottom line, there's no collusion. She's been talking a lot about collusion for 2 years, and there's nothing, it's baseless. And we have to start really striking back at them and holding them accountable. So anyway, I think I'm going to go on for 2 more minutes. I do want to remind you guys to subscribe subscribe to this channel. Okay, we're also, donate on Streamlabs. So let me see here. I'm gonna put this. again, it's the first of all, it's the second link in the description, but I already put it in the chat as well. So if you haven't yet, please donate on Streamlabs or Subscribe Star, whichever one you want. Subscribe Star is not completely set up yet, but you can do that for monthly subscriptions. And I think that we're going to start doing a lot more content, not just this channel and the uploads and the occasional stream. We're also going to start doing a podcast on what's it called, SoundCloud, and a number of other mediums with a few other people. It's not going to be under Bold Like a Leopard. It will probably be a different name, and it will be a group effort. So if you want to contribute to this effort, I encourage you to donate on Streamlabs and Subscribe Star, and do your best to help promote alternative media on the internet. Now, I said at the beginning, I'll say it now. If you like other creators, I encourage you to donate to them too. I donate to Tim Pool. I donate to Anthony Logan. I donate. I've bought Styx Hexenhammer's books. I haven't really donated directly to him, but there's a few books of his that I think are interesting, and I believe that's the way that we are going to sustain this. Look, we're living right now in an era where the alternative media is, kind of coming together and sustaining itself. It's hard because there's this effort to ban all sorts of people. Myself, I probably would not consider myself among those that have been persecuted yet, but there are a lot of people like Count Dankula who have been basically unpersoned. They can never go back to having a real job. But thanks to the persistence of our audiences, of his audience especially, and the audience of Tommy Robinson and the audiences of people like Molyneux and Lauren Southern, well, those media groups are staying afloat. Who's falling apart? It's all of those supposedly cutting edge media companies like The Verge and Vice and BuzzFeed and Huffington Post. They're basically drowning. They're going underwater, and they're not going to come back. They're gone. Maybe they could try to rebrand and eventually sustain themselves, but I don't see it happening. So for the last time, I hope you guys like this video. If you haven't liked it already, subscribe to the video, share the video, subscribe to me also on CocoScope and on BitChute. Okay, those links are also in the description. And Subscribe Star, Streamlabs, those are other ways to support the channel, should you choose to do it. And have a great rest of your day. If you're going to watch the Super Bowl, I picked the Rams. They're they're given 2.5 points, so I put a bet down on them. So that's about it. I'll talk to you guys later.